Welcome to WO50 Women Over 50 Embody Wisdom and Wellness.
Yes, we do. And going into 2025 now, we're just expanding the wellness even more. And today we're talking about the hurting healing heart, how feeling can reduce stress
Mhm.
and heal.
And heal. You look like you felt that just then.
A little stress. Where's the title? How feeling can reduce stress? How feeling heals? I don't know. Maybe that's not the title. We did talk about how the importance, the distinction between um, getting caught up in the story and becoming emotion, not really feeling, what's there, and how we can heal and expand with difficulties and challenges and people and situations.
And we discovered a new way of looking at it with our three A's, right?
Yes.
The awareness. You have to listen in to get the next two.
Yes. Eddie came up with an awesome system right in the middle of the podcast. It was amazing, and you can use it. So continue to listen. Hi, Eddie.
No, Ken, Happy New Year. Happy
Happy.
2025.
Yes, happy New Year. We haven't we haven't talked much at all.
During the holidays? No, we haven't.
No, we were both very busy, which we're going to talk about a little bit. And yeah, just whew.
Lots of
I'm
stuff.
I w-
Yeah.
I was just thinking the other day, is this how most people live all the time? Like how busy it was over the holidays? Is that how most people's day-to-day life is?
A lot of times, yes, they don't get to do all that meditation and yoga every day that you have in practice, your whole life. And, I work mine in, but I don't get the length of the yoga and the meditation that I do when I'm with you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's busy time for most people. And we did get to chat a little bit with our moms, which kind of helped lead to this title a little bit,
The
right?
hurting, healing heart.
Yeah, because we have a couple of friends that also, when we discussed their moms are moving through some stuff, through some illness, our moms are moving through moving. Your mom's just there, happy as anything. And
With not much memory, but she's like, "Oh, Corinne, I don't really remember much. Past is fine, but I don't remember day to day, and it's just the way it is." She's doesn't stress about it.
she writes down what's important. And then my mom was going back too far into the past, and what was really beautiful is that we were able to kind of strip away some layers of stuff that she was kind of holding. So, it really, that's why this title, that's why this
Hmm.
title.
Yeah. Yeah, when we're hurting, if we feel into it and allow the wisdom, not in our head, because typically when we're hurting, our head takes over because we don't want to hurt. And we either push away, get distracted about what's hurting, or we um, get in our heads about it. But I know that I'm hurting about this. Like anytime you have I know in front of it, for sure you're in your head and you're not feeling in your body, feeling
Yeah,
the energy of the emotion, the feeling. And I like to distinguish the difference between an emotion and a feeling. With a feeling is something that arises in the moment that you actually feel as like a different kind of energy somewhere in your body if you pay attention to it. And then an emotion is like a feeling with energy. So it's a feeling with then a story, like a narrative about it. So anytime we're getting into a narrative, which is kind of the only thing people do really, like we don't really know how to do what we're talking about today. Most people don't know how to feel and distinguish what's alive and true, what's the extra, what's the emotion, and that's why people get so stuck. And the emotions are what can cause, some family issues and, big problems, big blow ups, misunderstandings, confusion in relationship. And then eventually, as you'll talk about, is can make you very ill as well.
absolutely. Because you get that emotion, whether it's anger, somebody said something that made you angry or sad, or, and then this movement that's happening, like emotion is, I love that definition. It's energy in motion, right? And if we get anger coming in, it's like feeling where it is, where it's landing is so much better than attaching the story of why you're angry
Hmm.
or why you're depressed or, you know, thinking up, like even one incident, like with mom talking to her about this next move in her life, and we were over packing up some stuff in her place, and she's moving in still with my brother and his wife and the kids, and it's all really good, and there's always, discomfort in comfort. Right? And
Totally.
right, and then we adjust, and I just kept saying, okay, is that true, Mom? Is that true? Is that really, and like another podcast we did, is that useful to say right now? And when we're together as a family, when we ask ourselves that a lot, we stop and think, because I kept doing that with my approach with everything was, no, saying that isn't going to be very helpful. So
Mm.
even if somebody was standing there and I could feel the movement of anger or whatever it was, sadness, or what is this I'm feeling, I even started to let that question fall away. I just went,
Mm.
feeling this, whatever this is, I need to sit with this right now and let it move through. So that wasn't the time to say my piece. You know what I mean? It was
Mm.
like, this is all about what's happening in the moment with mom. This has nothing to do with me and my story and why I'm having this feeling. So I just
Mm.
felt it. And
Mm.
then, and every time my sister would get ready to say something, I would look at her and I never held up my hand. I would just give her, like, we give each other the look, of no, no, just let mom keep rolling with it. Let her keep rolling. It's good. It's good. And it was really beautiful. And we cut some ground here this weekend, which was great and done in a really beautiful way. And
Mhm.
it was a lot of healing that happened when a couple of hearts were hurting.
Yeah.
And I could feel it. I could feel that shift. And
Yeah.
oh, what a beautiful moment. Yeah.
Mm. You know what happens when you allow someone to be heard? It's connection,
Mm.
right? Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to be heard. And so when you allow that and kind of give everybody their turn and don't interrupt and let them speak fully, they feel like you're listening. They feel connected to you. Because we've talked about so many times here on this podcast, and we talk about it in person too. It's that most of the time, it's a habit of our culture that when someone's talking, we're thinking about what our response is and a million others, especially if you have some ADHD, you can't help but have another voice in your head at the same time. And so, but paying more attention to what the other person's saying, deeply listening, and then just trust that whatever's need to be said, not what you're intellectually wanting to say, but after that person speaks and you fully hear them, then even if there's a 5 second or 10 second pause, then there's true wisdom coming from the heart rather than what the head wants to say.
It's so important. It's so important. The connection is, that's it. Because in that moment, everyone's connecting. And I'm
Yeah.
sure, as we talk about it, people will feel it because they'll go, oh my God, that happened to me too. Or I've had that same experience. We all have a different story, but it's still the same feeling.
Yeah.
Still that same feeling.
Yeah.
And that's where the growth comes from. That's where, that when we get through the hurting and the healing, like just to feel our way through it, it's growing pains,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A lot of,
And what's
yeah.
so amazing, I don't know, I'd like to hear what your experience was, but I remember because I felt so deeply, I was writing poetry, writing songs. I would pick horrible boyfriends even when I was young. I was attracted to, sort of more controlling, emotionally unavailable men, even when I was, 13. And so I would I felt so deeply and I'd hurt so deeply that I had the story that I told myself that I don't want to feel. And I hear some young people say, I've heard my nieces say that before. I've heard people say that. And I even wrote a little book that I never published called Norman No Feelings Finds His Feelings. And I think it was like my subconscious trying to teach me. And it was about a little boy that fell out of a tree. And when he came to, he was exactly where with his same family in the same yard, but it was on a planet where nobody had any feelings. And so then he went into his house and he just nobody and he saw the value of living in a neighborhood and in a city that where nobody had feelings. And then, all of a sudden he fell out of the tree again or something, and then he woke up and back to finding his feelings.
Wow, and now they call that artificial intelligence.
What? The no feelings?
No feelings. Yeah.
I don't know. The artificial intelligence seems like it can have some feelings. They say, whatever you can think it, they can do it. It can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they do it, but with feeling, like that's it's
Yeah,
the
that's being a sentient being, is that we do feel. That's our gift. And so taking that narrative, if that I had that, like I don't want to feel, but then when I would feel, when I'd allow myself to feel, I'd write awesome songs, when I'd be hurt. Then I'd realize I didn't want to write from pain anymore. And so finding that balance and meditation helped give me a capacity to feel more without losing myself, to feel more without feeling it was destroying me, to be able to sit with the pain. And now, whether it was being able to sit with my dad while he was passing, or my mom is, her memory's not great, or a family as disruptions come up, I'm able to just not take it personal, sit there, feel all the stuff, but it doesn't overtake me. But it's so beautiful, the expansion and then the wisdom that comes from at that when I'm in my body and in the feeling, rather than my head trying to figure out what to tell people. Like there's none of that. It's a lot of times just blank mind. And then something will come out and I'm like, well, I don't know where that came from, but so anyways, that's sort of my experience with emotions. How about you?
the healing heart. For me, yeah, growing up was I felt way too much. Yeah, I was definitely not no feeling Norm, and I felt everything. Like honestly, like I think even a rabbit, being chased by a fox, I could feel the panic of the rabbit. So yeah, I've had to work with that my whole life, just trying to. Um, you can't take on the pain of the world. You cannot. You can, not all of it, not all of it. You
But
have
that's
to,
an intellectual thing, though. I do feel that when we start to feel, we can feel a lot, but we have the capacity to feel all, because we're all one. So when you
yeah,
say it intellectually, I agree with you. You can't take on the pain of the world. Well, I get what you're saying when you say that, but
it's more, you can look at the news and watch it or some event that's happening. And depending on the company, you can get swept up into it. And all of a sudden you're boiling and you're, oh my gosh, this is terrible what's happening. And, we start our whole personality changes because of it. And then that's what we have to be careful with. Yes, it's the
because it's in the head. Because it's in the head. You see all the terrible stuff, because I see it all the time when people come to India, right? You see all the terrible stuff, and then your head starts going, oh my gosh, da 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 da, instead of feeling in your body. When you just stop with the head, feel in the body. And once you feel in the body, the head stops with, oh, this is such a terrible world. That's a big narrative that people have. So it's not feeling at all. That's why I wanted to say you can take on the pain of the world, because taking on the pain of the world is an intellectual statement that, yeah, is not true. And it's ego. It's a little bit ego, but it's just not true. It's like if you stop and you feel, what am I feeling when I see that on TV? Without
yeah,
going into how those, where those people live and what they're going to do in the future. That's all future thinking. In this moment, what do I feel after seeing that? I feel some sadness. I feel some heaviness in my chest. And then
mhm,
in the next moment, a commercial comes on, and then you're in that moment.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that misinterpretation and going into, having a bleeding heart for animals and I'm not saying I love animals, but I also know the difference between noticing what's in front of me and noticing the narrative that I carry, that the world is so awful and that, and I just don't buy into that. And so that, and I do my best to just feel what's in front of me.
Well, I think what we're trying to say is it's more self-awareness, even just what we're reflecting on now with the heart, the healing, the hurt, the things that move through. It's that there's a heightened awareness. Like even in the moment of us talking right now about this, the way we phrase things, our language, right, back and forth.
Language is a such a
Huge.
big part of it.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
huge part. Yeah. But it's, yeah, the oneness of everyone. It's the statement taking on all the pain, or a family member taking on all the pain. The mother worrying about, there used to be a saying, a mother is only as happy as her saddest child. And I was like, I don't agree with that anymore.
Yeah.
There was a
Yeah.
time when I said that and believed it. And now I'm like, oh well, no, no, we need to do that too.
What's the shift in that, Eddie? Can you go into that deeper? I'd like to hear more about that.
The what's happened with me is just all the, I don't know, just the retreats and self-work and personal growth, the paths that I've taken just to deepen within myself. I've, we can't really take too much of a big drink outside of ourselves, because it's that inward search. It's that inward, that feeling again. It's back to what you're feeling, that sense, and the shift that happens. It's a hard thing to explain. For me,
Mhm.
there's a language around it to
Mhm.
even describe it, because it's going to be different for everyone.
Right, and we can only do our best right now to talk about the topic we've discussed, but you had made a statement that you feel differently now. With that statement, a mother is only as sad as her saddest, or happy as her saddest child, and that you
Yes.
feel differently now because that's, you
Well,
know,
because responsibility is not mine. It's not mine
you
for my.
came to understand that her happiness was not your responsibility, and you felt that. I think that's a very natural thing for a mother to feel that when their child is born as a baby, innocent baby, right?
Yes, well, you do everything for them as a
Yeah,
mother. You're responsible for so much,
yeah,
their well-being, that they don't fall and get hurt, and
yeah,
and then they start growing, and we have to grow as well with it as moms, because sometimes we overcare,
yeah.
sometimes we spoil, sometimes, and every parent will have a different story about how they raise their children. But what many do, and me included, is there's that, I don't know if it's protectiveness, but it's the, oh, I just, all we want is our children to be happy. I just wanted to be happy. But I can't make that happen. Happiness is an inside job.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I think this is such an important topic, Eddie, because I feel like, some parents feel like if their children are not successful and happy people, that they have somehow failed,
Mhm.
even when they've done their very best. I mean, I've got a friend, we've got a mutual friend whose son has been in and out of rehabs his whole life and finally has been sober at, I think, at the age of 45, 48. He became sober about 2 years ago. And now he's faltering a little bit again. And she's felt so connected, and her whole life has been based around his not dying. And finally, she's like, this time I don't want to take that on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be so hard. So she's feeling, that shift and feeling that sense of this is his work, starting
Mhm.
that delineation, because I just can't imagine how hard that would be because I am not a parent of any child that came out of my body. And so I've got different lessons, but I've seen it with my friends, and some friends I've seen with kids, they're very clear that the kids came into the world and they're just there to make sure they don't hurt themselves, and then after that, that's it's their life. And then other friends that are so interconnected with their kids that it's very hard to, when it comes time to have that disconnect and have them be their own person. So we all have compassion and empathy for all of us. I don't care what it's like, the 9/11 happened, and the world felt so much compassion for America. you know,
Mhm.
and when there's wars and when there's earthquakes, people come together unbelievably,
And there's connection.
and there's connection.
There's connection. And this is the other piece with parents is that that doesn't mean allowing your child to have their life, live their life, it's their life, you know.
Yeah,
The connection is still there, but it's not like, well, I brought you into the world, I can take you out, I
yeah,
have so many people.
uh-huh,
Like, no, no, no. We protect them and guide them. And as I've gotten older and I watch now my daughter with her kids and the growth is, exponential. Like it's beautiful to watch. But when she comes back and says, Mom, was I like that? I'm like, exactly, identical. I'm like, oh, can I just revel in a little bit of glory right now? No. Or
yeah,
certain things you feel with them too, but the pain, I don't take on the pain. And I have many
right,
clients that come in and sit down and they're in pain, real deep heart pain, because their child is suffering,
yeah,
child is struggling, and they can't they can't live their own life.
yeah,
And it takes a lot of, you know, self-discovery and self-awareness and that deep dive right
yeah,
into, okay, what is that feeling?
yeah.
What is that? Because it is deep, you
And
know?
guiding them, that's a beautiful distinction. So, you know, what you just said, Eddie, was what is the feeling? You didn't say, why am I feeling the pain? Because that's a question of pain because it's of the mind. But what am I feeling is directing you to the body, to the sensation, because feeling is energy in your body. And so the only way through it, the only way past it is through it. It's the only way.
That's right. And it's the same with grief. It's the same with, when, we both lost our dads, our moms are getting older. And, I even had that talk with mom, just end of life things. And her and I had a beautiful talk. And she says, well, now I don't want to leave anyone out who gets this and I was like, this ring and that ring. And I'm like, Mom, isn't it great? You can do all that now. Like you're 90 and you get to do like have the conversation and
She's so darn cute. My goal is still going to be to, even though there was some things that maybe we're going to cut out, but that we had great realizations about, but that we'll cut out and keep private. I still think we're going to publish part of it, our conversation with our moms, because it was really sweet.
oh my goodness, your mom was so cute. Like she was sweet. And she just sitting there and then she dove in. Yeah, and anyone listening, oh, she remembers 30 years ago
Yeah,
of
yeah,
things with my kid. She's like, yeah, you had to get her permission to go out and shop with us. I'm going, oh my gosh.
right. She does that to me all the time. She'll have a memory that, I said to my sister, I said, does mom have these memories of you that she says over and over again? She said, oh, yeah, she
Yeah,
does.
there's no problem remembering all that stuff. So
Yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah. So I thought your mom was so sweet. It's so funny how you've always loved my mom. I've always loved your mom. And yeah, they're
Yeah,
sweet in the very different ways, very different moms.
and they parented totally different.
Yeah, yeah. And
Parented,
they were raised, actually, my mom was raised just on opposite sides of Canada, but they didn't have much of anything either.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, so, not many people did a long time
I
ago.
guess so. Yeah, because it was the Depression.
Mhm. The wars happened.
Yeah,
People,
yeah.
they weren't wasteful.
Hmm,
But
hmm.
they too, like listening to them, they too they were digging into their heart, Well, my mother more so. Your mom just wanted a glass of wine.
It's true. It's true. My mom, I wrote a song one time. I didn't finish it. It's called Surfing the Surface because my mom surfs the surface of emotions a lot. She just is having a good time. Yeah. Hmm.
Mom made me realize when she said some things and she goes, I shouldn't have said that. I think I offended somebody. And I'm like, probably.
good though. That was self-reflection. That was worth it, the price of admission, to realize because self-awareness, I'm just noticing that, with just coming back from the holidays with 3 weeks in Canada and with my family and stuff, which I totally loved. But man, this year I saw some things I'd never seen before, just such conditioning. And I felt the pull of my own conditioning. So, the saying is if you want to know how enlightened you are, how self-aware, just go to spend some time with your family. And so this is over the years, Eddie and I have both done this before you moved back home. You were away for many years and you go through transitions and you think you're a different person, then you go to your family and you just kind of fall right back into those patterns. And I felt energetically how that happens because the conditioning runs so, so, so deep.
Yeah.
And this is what awareness is all about. When people try to tell me, they try to say, oh, that's just the way I am, or that's the way I was raised. I'm like, okay, yes, that's called conditioning. And you're not Pavlov's dog. You can change. It does take effort and it's hard. But
Well,
if,
first, I think, well, the awareness, yes, and then it's the acknowledging it,
yeah,
that, right? And then it's accepting it. So it's like the three A's, the awareness, the acceptance, or the acknowledgement of it, and then the acceptance,
yeah.
which are part of any healing process,
Hmm.
but
Yeah,
especially these are deep emotions, when,
beautiful.
yeah, that's a nice,
Did you just come up with that just now?
yeah, it just came into my head. Yeah. Three A's.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. We got to put that in our course.
Acceptance,
Acknowledgement.
acknowledgement, acceptance. Yeah.
What was the first one?
Write that down.
Awareness.
Aware.
Awareness of it, acknowledge it, and then you accept it
Yeah.
with anything. Because that's the thing is we don't see ourselves clearly or situations clearly or people clearly. Typically, we'll see things better than they are or worse than they are, as they are. And so we do that on surface things in life, just, what you can see. But then there's the deeper conditioning, the emotions that come up, the feelings that we have that I mean, how many times I know I've done it and I've seen people do it where you've had a bad day or a bad something happen and then you walk in somewhere with your best friend or your spouse or your child for that matter and you take it out on them. You're irritated and a small thing gets you upset because of your day.
I remember studying psychology, what you just said, and I'll never forget this because I took it home and I was in my 20s and I went, that's displacement. That's displacement.
That's hilarious.
You can't take your stuff and put it on me. And I felt so empowered. And then that was it. That was enough then for that day, but that's what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not, they say couples have the same argument over and over again, but it's something different underlying. It might seem like it's that on the surface, but it's underlying stuff, or we carry that Santa bag full of past grievances into every conversation.
Well, you think about how many times you sat in the car and you're on your way home and you're mulling that story in your head that's what you're going to say when you walk into the door. Well, by the time you get home, if that story hasn't softened, go for a walk. Take a
Yeah.
little stroll.
Do some
Don't,
jumping jacks.
yeah, you don't want to vent that out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Put the story up. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
to act it out on stage, beautiful, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
But to our loved ones, really, really, do we want to do that? So little bit of awareness there, and then acknowledge it, and then no, accept it.
No, acknowledge, be aware of it,
Be aware,
then acknowledge.
acknowledge, accept it, and
Yeah.
then feel, right? Feel
Yeah.
your way, like we said at the top. Like
Yeah.
feel through it. Don't attach anything to it, and then let it fall off. Let it move
Well, the
through it.
way you can't, I mean, you're talking about the end result is letting it, and there's no way to let it intellectually. So the way to do that, to get to where Eddie's speaking about, is to feel it. And the way we feel it is to notice where it is in our body because it's going to live in the body. And that's one of the reasons why meditation or being able to be still is important because what happens is, even like, say, something, you say you're home and your spouse comes home and they get mad at you, you forgot to pick up something at the grocery store and they snap at you or whatever. And then you go, instead of just being like, I'm sorry, I forgot, or then you might get defensive and then you make up a whole story as I can't believe they said that. I had such a busy day, and you make a whole, and then you might get mad about the thing they did yesterday. That's making a mountain out of a molehill. And so what would be a better choice, and what we're talking about here, how to heal that heart is, and you can do this from small things like that to the biggest things, but it's easier to practice on small things. So, okay, they're mad at you because of something you didn't do. You apologize, say, you know what, you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't do that. And then you feel it in your body, like sit with that. What the moment they said that, and it might have been like shame that you forgot. You might feel that in your throat. So it's feeling the sensation. Stay out of your head with it. And this is what I do in my coaching sessions a lot because that's why I wanted to describe this a little bit more because the first few times you do it, it's hard because we're so used to being in our head with it. There are some people that I talk them through it and they're so uncomfortable with being in the energy. There's so much resistance that they'll start yawning incessantly if I get to a spot in them that's deep, or they'll start burping incessantly, or they'll start coughing, or I mean, it's wild how the body responds when you are not used to being in your body in the energy of it. And then what you'll find is that when you acknowledge everything in life has an energy. So a moth has a certain energy, it has a life, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Every thought we has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So every like grievance and feeling has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And what happens is it's like we're in the middle of surgery and we're running out the door with the back of the gown still open with our bare bums all around because we're not allowing the beginning and middle of an end of a feeling. And so when you sit with it and stay out of your head with it and feel it in your body, then it has a life, it has a beginning, a middle, and then it moves through. And that's the letting go part. That's then you let it go because it doesn't happen intellectually. It's got to be sitting with the feeling. And people just are not taught that. They're
No.
not taught it. And fortunately, it is becoming more and more a part. I hear it more on podcasts and even in TV and movies and stuff. And it's so beautiful that that's coming out more. But we can't be talking about it enough right now. Mental health is such a huge problem, and feeling, emotions, people getting caught in their head is such a huge issue. And so, really being practical today about how to heal the hurting heart.
Yes, and there's, like you just said, it's mental health is a big issue right now, and there are some beautiful advances being made that are, like I've had a couple of patients who have done EMDR, the eye movement and cognitive behavioral therapies, and there's a lot of things out there, and that's dealing with the feeling.
Well,
Oh,
it's dealing with the stuckness of the past feelings. It's not
yes.
dealing with the feeling. Yeah. So that, and that can be really stuck. You
But
can have the
working
accumulation.
Yeah, not dealing with the feeling, but working with what you're feeling,
The
moving through.
It's the accumulation of the stuckness of your past emotions, of the feelings. And so that's all good for past stuff that's stuck. And
Yeah,
most of us have a lot of it. Whatever works for you. It can be massage, it can be Reiki, it can be EMDR, it can be the cognitive therapy. I mean, there's so many ways to do it. It can be a really good conversation with your
therapist
best friend
or a
or
good,
your
really,
best friend.
yep, or your best friend, because it's allowing the processing time, the
Yeah.
processing piece,
Yeah.
or the moving through it, right? The
Yeah.
moving forward. That's
And
like you back a little bit ago. It's moving through it. We just watched a segment of Shrinking, and he
which
just
one?
in season two now.
I
Because I had to
just
watch it again because Strat wanted to watch, and I'm like, I'll watch them all again because it's great, really good. And the types of therapy, and when he was dealing with, one of the guys, and the the head psychologist is like, oh, oh, you're doing it wrong. Because he's caught up in his own life, his own drama, which is intense.
Having Parkinson's.
Well, he has Parkinson's, but he's the one called out um, the other guy
Yeah,
on
yeah.
because he was, just he was not mentally feeling ready to work, but he went ahead. And so he was kind of dumping his stuff on his patients. And, anyway, it's really good verbiage all the way around.
Yeah, it's a good show. I mean, their intention in making the show was to make a comedy about grief and help people to acknowledge it and see the many ways that when you don't deal with your emotions in a healthy way and feel the feelings, how much havoc it can cause in your life, and it can affect so many other people.
And it can affect you intensely, physically, emotionally, nutritionally. Like you
Hmm.
can just, yeah, there's not
Hmm.
reflection going on. It's a very stuck place.
Hmm.
Feels very sticky.
You know what I
Yeah.
just realized, Eddie? You know how you always say I'm very articulate in some of these things? And I noticed when I was at home with my family how incredibly inarticulate I am. In mostly it's not with when I'm sitting one to one helping somebody, it's just like I am now. But when I'm like telling a story, or especially when I'm around my brother and I'm trying to tell a story or add to a conversation, I cannot articulate anything.
That's
And
funny.
and I don't drink or anything.
Oh, it's interesting. I can't believe you said that because over Christmas, I was sitting at the table with my brother and my niece is now grown. I mean, she was, I was like, they used to love to see Aunt Eddie come home for a visit, and they're sitting at the table, and I'm trying to tell a joke, and the joke went backwards, and the two of them at the same time went, ah, look at her, still can't tell a joke. And I'm going, but I can. And my words, and then I'm going, oh my gosh, hearing, they have not seen my growth. And it made me laugh just sitting there because, that was the whole thing. I didn't articulate it right, and you're not, yeah, it's really wild. I don't know what that is.
That's the pull of the conditioning. So they have this picture of you from when you were young, which is what our family does. They don't see all the growth you've had, and then you come in with all this growth, and then you go right back to where you were, and it can and it because it's that pull of that energetic conditioning. You become that little girl again, and they see it. They confirm it by saying, "Oh, there she is again." I've always been a little bundle of non-articulate, insecure around my brother, trying to impress him. And I thought I'd gotten over it. And it wasn't a huge feeling. I just noticed how poor I could tell a story or have input in a conversation where he was involved. It was bizarre.
I know, and it's when we're in our lane, it's great because we could be, but
Yes.
they're not going to have that lane talk with me. We're talking something very, you know, it could be politics, it could be just a surface talk, right? And I might go to make a comment, but it sounds like not relevant. It's really beautiful, I think, that we both experienced that this Christmas.
Mm.
It made me laugh, like not to the point where I was like, "Oh, for God's sakes, guys, give it up." It made me laugh at myself
Yeah.
that you saw the pull that happened, but it's like you're almost outside yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like this is not how I respond normally in regular life, and that this is bizarre. And yeah, there's no button anymore. There's not a button. It's no buttons that need healing, or who knows if it is. But it's just like, wow, this is funny.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love that the whole meeting of families because the families, the extended families now, right? And just you're getting to know the kids that are now adults, and it's really sweet to watch the growth, but there's no courting in to go, oh, I'm so sorry for all your pain. There's none of that. It's just that being there in the moment with each person, and you get to have your own experience with them. And
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed every single one of them. Now, there might have been a couple of them in the corner having a bit of chaos, but that wasn't my experience. Mine was over here going, oh, look at all this great food that I can eat.
Oh, there was. You must have done all the cooking then.
No, there was lots of good food.
Oh,
Lots of,
good. That's
yeah.
great. Oh my gosh, that's good. That's good. That's some good stuff. That's important. I mean, really a conversation we could have again and again because, you know, I remember David Simon, who was, Deepak Chopra's partner, he used to say every sickness is homesickness. And it's homesickness for the real home, which is yourself, your body, yourself, your inner world, your connection to the universe and everyone and everything we feel through this GPS system, this heart that we're living in, skin encapsulated ego that we're living in. We feel the connection through the physical body, through the heart, because this is our house this lifetime.
That's right. Calling each other home.
Yes. Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, Ed. So good to see you. I love you.
Love you too. See you soon. Thanks,
Next
everyone.
week.
Here's to a wonderful year ahead.